Panther Nation, the C3 podcast, brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com.
I had fun, man. Just out, you guys joking. We working at the same time. Putting the work in as a team. Like I said, I'm just glad to be with the guys.
My favorite night of the week.
We're gonna go out there and we're playing to win. We're not out here just to show up. We're out here to win.
I don't want guys that want to win, because really, who doesn't? Nobody wants to win. Everybody wants to win. I want players that hate to win.
This embodies everything that we are as a team, as an organization. Our motto is keep pounding, and that's what we do. You know what I'm saying?
Hey, what's the deal, Panther fans? It's your boy, the Professor, a.k.a. Tony Dunn, and this is the C3 podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night we chop up the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. Do it with my best friend Joe Riolano every week, and every now and then we're joined by some other people, but not tonight, man. It's just you and I until our special guest, Peter Panacy, comes on later. Joe, the draft is approaching.
I am so glad that it's Tuesday, Tony. This is Joe Riolano, a.k.a. the freaking Puerto Rican. There's so much talk going on right now about the draft. It's really funny to hear everybody's opinions. How sometimes they're in harmony, but most of the time they're extremely different. So I like to, hear the different opinions on everybody and their reasoning for whoever they think is going where. But it is a C3 podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com. We are missing Mel Mayock tonight. He is, what do they say, a Rolling Stone gathers no moss? Well, he is definitely a Rolling Stone. We do miss him wherever you're at, Mel. Safe travels. God bless you, brother. We miss you. And we are excited, man. At least I am. I feel that tonight we're going to get to talk more about the draft in the offseason, but it's such a big thing. And for us, as close as we are to contending again, like we did in 2015, the draft really matters.
Yeah, and I had a friend on Twitter put it this way. He said, never has there been such a deep draft that I felt that could make such a big difference that I felt I had so much uncertainty about. And I thought that was an interesting point because you would think, we're picking at the highest point we've picked at in a long time. We're also we know that there's a solid foundation with some real players there in some different positions, and you've got these parts, and we saw what this team could be, but at the same time there's this like internal kind of fear and uncertainty among fans, and it's turned into a little bitterness between people and as we're digging into camps. And I find that strange, since there are supposedly no players who can make that instant, that can really turn a team around, that supposedly is just like a overall good talent but nothing exceptional. And but with that said, everybody has got such a strong opinion about things, which is I feel like our greatest enemy right now is ourselves in the draft talk. And maybe that's normal.
Yeah, I mean it is to a degree. We were so successful in 2015, and 2016 comes around with these extremely high expectations, and we fall flat on our face. We look at our team and, we say there were any number of reasons why this happened. There were inconsistencies along the offensive line, but a part of that was injury. The defense, did not perform as well as they had the year before. I don't know if it was just a slow start or, again, injuries popping up. But the core of our team is solid. Now we just need to add a couple of pieces here and there, and I think we'll be in the hunt.
Yeah. All right, Joe, tonight's show is 17.11, and the long and short of it is tonight's episode. We'll be talking about Kawaan Short's extension, the big $85 or $80 million contract. We'll be talking about some of these the draft battles that are going on when it comes to the Leonard Fournette, McCaffrey camp, and those who are all outside of those picks. And we'll kind of think about some of the other things as we approach next week's show, which will be dedicated to, like, we'll have the mock draft. We'll get ready for the C3 live draft party. But at 9:30 tonight, guys, we got a special guest and longtime friend of the show. I think Peter Panacy goes back to the beginning with us, first season of the show. And Peter Panacy is a really cool dude from San Francisco, writer for several San Francisco 49er websites, and just a great level-headed kind of perspective of what's going on out there on the West Coast. But we're bringing in him tonight to pick his brain because San Francisco 49ers draft number 2, and there's a lot of speculation that John Lynch, a former NFC South standout with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, who is a now GM, kind of a surprise signing, I feel like, at GM, but a lot of discussion about San Francisco trading back in the draft, and then there's been a lot of talk about the Panthers trading up, and we don't really have any real insight into if the Panthers are going to do that, but maybe we can find out a little something from Peter about if San Francisco is going to shake up the whole draft order in the beginning. But until then, we got a ton to talk about. He's going to join us in about a little over 20 minutes. Just remember, guys, you can participate in the chat on YouTube. It is going on Facebook Live. I will try to pull that chat up now. Periscope is down right now. I don't know what's up with that. It's not down in general. It's just down to C3. So we're down with them. We're not down with them tonight. But look, if you're watching on YouTube right now, the best thing you can do is just hit that thumbs up button below. Give us a like and a share, and tell somebody to join the podcast and the show because, look, it's a great time. If you're listening on the road later on iTunes, Stitcher, do the same. Just give us a share on social media. And you can tweet us at @cat_chronicles. We got a Facebook page, Carolina Cat Chronicles. And you can email us at carolinacatchronicles@gmail.com. And also, if you are interested in supporting independent fan content, go to our website and just click on the podcast and carolinacatchronicles.com. Go to the C3 podcast and consider donating. As little as $1 it can make a big difference in us continuing to build an independent network of fans talking about their team and really covering it as intimately and as personally as you can get in some ways. I don't think that many people recognize, I think sometimes we diminish that, hey, we're just fans. But, I know Panther fans that watch Panther News more than reporters. And can really give you some good insight, and we'll do it with a little flavor, and we always do it with a couple beers in the belly, so it gets a little fun. All right, Joe, the big news, the long and short of tonight's show is that Monday morning news broke of Kawaan Short signing a $80 million five-year $80 million deal where we get our defensive tackle locked up for the long term. Joey, was this a little surprising to you on Monday morning, this news?
It was. Not that. Well, what was surprising was it just came like out of nowhere. We really hadn't heard any updates. We knew there were discussions going on, but there had been no real. I guess they didn't let anybody know how that process was going. We figured they were just talking, and boom. Here you go, we got the deal done, and it's like you're happy as can be, but I think you're more shocked that there was no inkling, no type of you didn't know it was going to happen, and then boom, there it is.
I think we almost forgot about it for a moment, Joe.
What?
Basically, we're just sitting there. The franchise tag is on the table. We hadn't heard much about it. We assumed that KK was going to sign the deal and that it wouldn't be a big whoop-de-doo, and that it seemed like because it didn't happen earlier, that it wasn't going to happen at all this year. And, we started speculating if they were going to let him walk and all of this. And then, boom, like you said, it happens. KK is signed to 5 years. He gets a whopping, I think it was, he got $35 million guaranteed, $80 million, and he's got a cash flow in the first 2 years of $40 million, Joe. So this is we haven't seen the exact details of the deal yet and how it's broken up, but it seems to be heavily front loaded. If you're making $40 million out of the 80 in the first 2 years, and then you got 3 years left on the back end, this is a front-loaded deal, not a back-loaded deal where they paid. I mean, they're paying him, and they're going to keep him around for a long time, I would guess.
Yeah, well, they definitely going to keep him for those first years of the deal. He is going to be 30 this season, and, he's going to get his money right now. That's the thing with guys. You want to have a contract that gives you your money up front. You don't want it to be on the back end of your contract because 9 times out of 10 they restructure that deal. So he's getting it all right away, which is great for him. And then the Panthers, toward the second half of the deal anyway. I mean, not financially committed. As much as they are at the beginning. So if he needs, he's not performing to the level he is now and his production isn't matching, they can let him go and not take a huge cap hit.
Right.
For it.
I think it really, Joe, what is signing Kawaan short signal to you is about the identity of this Carolina Panthers team?
Well, it tells me that the Panthers know who we are. We're a run-stuffing, get-after-the-quarterback defense. And we know that our entire team is predicated on our defense. Get after the quarterback, cause turnovers or punts, get the offense on the field for as many possessions as they can possibly get. You give Cam enough opportunities, he's going to make something happen.
Yeah. Look, Joe, Pete Panacy joined us a little earlier than I thought, and we're glad to have him. Peter, can you hear us okay?
Definitely. Pete brings some wonderful insight to the Niners and really just football in general. He's a really, really sharp guy, and it's a privilege for us to have him on the show.
Fantastic. Pete, go ahead and give us a little mic check.
Yeah, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, you're a little low, like very low.
Like I can't even hear him.
Yeah, I couldn't hear that at all.
Better if you can hear anything.
Give it a try now.
Adjust his volume.
How's this right now?
Oh, there we go. I can hear a little something.
Okay. All right. Well,
anything better?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Guys, what we'll do is we'll put it out to the YouTube chat. He's a lot low, somebody said, but I think it's getting louder. And I'm beaming it out, hopefully. All right, so, guys, what we've been talking about is this concept of well, actually, we're getting into the draft and some things like that. And, Peter, we brought you in to talk a little draft info. You guys are drafted number 2. That's not a good thing, and it is a good thing. Can you tell us how you guys are feeling over there on the West Coast?
Are you able to hear anything, Tony?
No, he's frozen in time now.
Okay.
All right. So, try dropping out, Pete, and then jumping back in. All right, Joe, and look, I'm all messing up the screen. Doing all kinds of crazy things on my end. All right, so
with this Kawaan signing, that's great. We want him. Fans love him. Now that we signed him and committed to him, I'm gonna get a Kawaan short jersey. I really like him. The next question, following this pattern here and thinking logically, next season, star Luke Tilley is going to be due.
Yeah.
So, is this signing of Short going to cost a star? We drafted Vernon Butler, thinking we may end up losing one of the two. But if it's at all possible, do you want to keep all three?
Now that's a tough question for me, Joey. Is that I think, but I've been wrong about all of this, and that is the idea. What I've been wrong about is I thought, hey, drafting Butler meant that one of these guys was the odd man out, and then I thought that not Star, but initially I thought it would be Star, but then when they were like, oh, we're going to franchise KK, and it didn't seem to be happening, we go over and over. We didn't see the deal get done yet, or at least I thought we were going to do it last year. All of these different factors, and we didn't. And then what you get is that, and then it gets done. So then you go, hey, well, does this mean that Star's the guy that's edged out? But you got Charles Johnson, big money, who the first thing he did on Twitter after the signing of KK Short was to say next Star's up next. And we really don't I don't know on that question. Is that at some point you wonder, how can you have potentially 3 starting defensive tackles on a team?
Well, here's a good thing. Okay, we're fortunate because Gettleman is a wise man, and he picked Butler. He got him in the first round, right? So he gets that
5 years
extra year. He bought himself, and Butler's going to come wanting to get paid. So here is the pickle, the predicament that I think the Panthers are going to find themselves in. KK gets a lot of the headlines and a lot of the publicity because he makes really big impact plays. But who does the dirty work? Who's the guy that's in there eating up 2 and 3 blockers at a time so that take one-on-ones and get to the Drew Breeses and the whoever they're playing? That is Star. Star's the space taker. Star's the guy that is gonna, need to be double teamed. And that's dirty work. You gotta have guys like that on your team. Okay. So the Panthers pay him what he wants, and then where will it cost them? Where they'll have to lose something somewhere else. Our secondary is seriously depleted. Right? We have no depth. We have starting help, but there's nobody behind our guys. And then, the linebackers, well, they're getting paid. Luke has gotten his money. He's taken care of. Thomas Davis, he's made his money, so I don't think he's looking for a big deal. Shaq, his contract's going to be coming up, and he's going to be
but these guys, like you, Shaq, you got 3 more whole years
before
you got to deal with, because he was a first-round pick. It's really
he was a second-round pick.
No, Shaq Thompson.
Wasn't he a second rounder?
Nah, Shaq Thompson was the first. It was the year after Kelvin Benjamin. So you got Kelvin Benjamin, who we're going to be picking up his 5th. He's going into the 4th year.
Right.
Shaq is going into his 3rd year. So you really have 3, 4, 5, 3 if you include this year with Shaq, 2 with Benjamin. You almost wonder, can you keep rolling with these just kind of, you sign one big deal per year.
Right. You can do that for a little while, but eventually you're going to run into a problem.
Right. Okay, so you're saying this is that Star's value may be a little hidden to us just because he doesn't do the sexy work. But I would think but at times he hasn't been a true difference maker, and he has been solid, right? But on the other side, so is KK. He's been better. I mean, if you say who's the better of the two, And you're right. Is maybe you don't need to compare them. It doesn't have to be an either or. Is
I
that
don't think
they
it's
have
fair to.
complementary type roles.
Exactly.
Um,
Exactly.
so you could see that, and Gettleman's mind might be is like just to continue relentless pressure up the middle, and then maybe you can find some gems late or some in different places for the defensive end. But you got to know that right now there's a true weakness at defensive end for the Carolina Panthers. Not a weakness necessarily,
Yes.
but
Right. There's no. Again, it's a depth issue.
and also an age issue.
Yes.
I'm an
Old.
ageist. I'm an ageist.
Yeah.
So, yeah, is that it was all right, so Starr could potentially, it might be difficult to re-sign him. This is his 5th year option though right now. This year.
Yes.
So, that it will be after this year you would have to work something out. So, we would know potentially it'd be interesting to see if they could do something now.
Right before
Wouldn't that
the
be
year's
crazy?
over.
Yeah, because that actually could, unlike the Star or like the KK contract, is you might be able to alleviate some cap room with Star. But KK's contract, there's no way that alleviated cap space this time.
No.
I mean, if you're talking $40 million cash flow in 2 years, dude's getting paid right up front, and there's no way you can get out of that, unlike some of these other deals that have been made. So, all right, let's move on to a different topic. I think, by the way, that the KK sign-in was fantastic. I think it's deserved. I think he's a hella player. I think he's worth every dollar, and I actually think that it was kind of a good bargain. 5 years, $80 million. It sounds big on the face of it. 35 when you look, he got more guaranteed money than I guess who's the dude in Philadelphia?
Fletcher Cox.
Yeah, Fletcher Cox got the bigger deal because it was up, I think, upwards of 100 and something million. Right. 5 years similarly, but he was down around 30, I think, million, a little less than the guaranteed. I think that what you're going to find is that KK, you're going to be able to keep him around longer. You're just swallowing the money now instead of in
let
the
me
long
tell
term.
you this, Tony. You talked about salary cap with KK's deal. Joe Corey at Corey Joe was retweeted by Chocolate Wonderland. It says K1 Short's 2017 salary cap number goes from $13.387 million with the franchise tag to $10 million on his new 5-year, $80.5 million deal. So we saved almost $4 million by signing him this year.
How? I don't even understand that. And I wonder if next year we just get pillaged.
Right. I think next year he's gonna take a big part of the salary cap because with the franchise tag, they take the average of, I think, like the top however many players. It went from almost 14 million, almost 13.4 million to 10. So we did save about $3.5 million.
Usually you go down a little bit, like in a long. Sometimes it sounds at first is that, and not that I'm a cap expert. I'm far from it, but I think that the general consensus of really just super casual fans when they talk about contracts is they see the big number and they think Joe Flacco, right? And how that giant number saddled that team. Well, it did. It was much different when the whole salary cap was $105 million for the whole team. Is now it's up to $160 million essentially, or $155. It's pretty high. Right. And there are ways that you can spread that money out. So you actually, by paying a dude more, you actually alleviate the short-term impact of it, and you see that Dave Gettleman's a really brilliant at kind of doing that, and he almost structures his contracts a little old school, it seems, and it gets the trick done. They're not too fancy, but guys get paid, and and they know when those kind of pivot moments are for their career. And if they're going to have to worry about, like we all know, like this is the year that a guy is going to be cut and the money is, makes the difference. All right, I do want to ask before Peter joins back in, because I know he's trying to get back in. I want to ask, Pete, give us a mic check now.
How about now? Can you guys hear me okay?
Oh, it's perfect. Yeah. All right.
There you go.
Pete, good talking to you again. It's great to see you. Good to hear your voice. And I know that you're ready for a new season.
Absolutely. It's a fresh start, clean slate out in Santa Clara. New front office, vastly different than anything the 49ers have seen over the past few years. And, it's a different change. It's a refreshing change, to say the least.
We brought you on tonight, Pete. Well, first, Pete, tell everybody where you write at these days, because it's hard to keep up with you. You write for like 3 different places a lot of times.
Yeah, so right now I am going back to Bleacher Report to cover the 49ers in the NFL draft, so that's always going to be a lot of fun. And then over at NinerNoise.com, which is part of the fan-sided network, I'm the co-expert of that site. Actually, I know the sole expert of that site right now, running Niner Noise, and it's done really well. It's been a lot of fun. And
it's a lot of work, ain't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of work. But it's worthwhile.
It's the labor of love. All right, we brought you on tonight, Pete, because, look, you're on you guys are drafting number 2. The Panthers, a lot of Panther fans want Leonard Fournette, and we don't believe that he will last to number 8. There's been some noise coming out of San Francisco. We don't know if it's Lynch trying to smoke screen or if it's people trying to drum up news that isn't there, or I guess it seems like the 49ers are interested in trading back. What are you hearing about what the 49ers may or may not do on draft night?
Well, I mean, should the 49ers trade back? Yeah, I think they would be obviously smart at this point. Net more draft picks. They have a ton of needs that aren't going to be solved by one draft. The problem is anytime that you bring up the idea of trading up or trading down is you got to find a trading partner. And if the need's not quite there for another team, there's not going to be a move that's made. So, in my opinion, prospects, everybody behind Myles Garrett, probably numbers 2 through 8, are all kind of in the same boat where you're like, these guys are solid picks. You really can't go too wrong with any one of them. So I don't see too many teams trying to move up to that number 2 spot, but that could be a reason why the 49ers are drumming up interest in certain players that other teams might be high on, such as Solomon Thomas out of Stanford, defensive end, Leonard Fournette out of LSU, which I don't think he would be a fit for the 49ers at all. But at least the interest is there. And you got to remember, everything you hear at this time of year, you got to take it with a grain of salt.
Yeah. Deflection, sleight of hand, whatever, misdirection. But it does seem that – well, first, what do you think? John Lynch, former Tampa Bay Buccaneer, surprising hire, I felt like. We didn't really – no one saw, I don't think, that them hiring somebody that was just a first-time player GM with it seems like little experience. How have you received that hire, first of all?
Well, initially it was a bit of a shock. And this is one thing about the 49ers that a lot of people in the national media don't know too well, but they used to leak a lot of information. And so everything was being reported before it happened. And, the 49ers are tied to this guy, or they want to get rid of that guy, or this guy's being thrown under the bus. And then John Lynch happened. And it was like nobody reported this at all. And that was the intent. Initially, yeah, a little speculative. It was kind of one of those picks where you're like, okay, he has 0 front office experience. He obviously knows the pro level game from his analyst days, so you know that he can watch players on the field and see who's playing well and who's not. But the big part of me, and a little bit still today, that worries a little bit is how is he going to handle collegiate scouting? Now, he's even admitted that that's something he's going to have to get used to doing. But one of the bigger hires the 49ers made, and John Lynch was a big part of this, was bringing in Adam Peters, who was I think director of collegiate scouting for the Denver Broncos, and had some great pickups for the Broncos there. So that's going to help. But the one thing that really has stood out about John Lynch, he's not shy in front of the camera. Former general manager Trent Baalke, you couldn't get an interview with him. He was active in free agency. Trent Baalke was not active in free agency. So he's kind of proven to be everything Trent Baalke wasn't. And I think right now for the 49ers, that's what they need. They need kind of a solid face that can be the face of a franchise, and John Lynch is good at that.
When it comes to it's so quick how things can turn in the NFL. I felt like Balky was at one point when you guys had Harbaugh, and before it came to light that they didn't like each other or couldn't work together or whatever it was. It seemed like San Francisco was the model that so many teams wanted to replicate at that time. And boy, you can fall from grace in the NFL, it seems. But when you said that, a lot of teams, would you be interested in trading back? And you guys would be. The question is, would somebody be willing to trade up? And who is that guy for? Right now, among Carolina Panther fans, it is Leonard Fournette. That's the guy that is the only guy worth trading up for. One of our writers, and Peekaboo Jones 64, who's in the YouTube chat right now, says the only person worth trading up for is Myles Garrett. But in the event that something was like that going to happen, not Myles Garrett, but say Myles Garrett goes number 1, what would be the price tag, you think, for the number 2 pick if the Carolina Panthers were the team? We're number 8. We draft 8.
Yeah, this would be the time where Trent Baalke could get a little bit greedy, but you certainly ask for a second-round pick in addition to the first, and you might want to throw in, either a mid to late round pick in this year's draft, and then perhaps even like a second-round pick in 2018.
Wow.
There's that draft value chart that Pro Football Talk has, and I don't know how many times I've stared at that thing. It's just kind of a model of what picks are worth. But, I mean, if you wind up going that from the 49ers' vantage point, you make it as expensive as possible and say, hey, how much do you really want this guy? And, for the 49ers moving from number 2 to number 8, that wouldn't be a big move down. You're still going to get a really good player and maybe someone that you absolutely wanted, just with better value. So I think it would be expensive, but hey, that's why they're general managers, and I just sit and talk about it.
Yeah, there's a Cameron Curry on YouTube right now put out this, and this is what a great insight this is. He says the interesting thing about a 49ers Panther trade is there is a template from last year with the Eagles and Browns. The Eagles gave up an 8 and a 77, a third, and 100 fourth. First round in 17 and a second round in 18. That cannot be. Is it that many picks? Holy crap.
It was expensive.
I don't want Leonard Fournette that much. And I like the dude, but dang, we won't have anything to talk about, Joe, for 2 years on draft night.
My God.
All right, so you mentioned that you didn't think that Fournette was a good fit in San Francisco. Why is that? Because Carlos Hyde is still a monster?
No, it wouldn't surprise me if the 49ers decided to move on from Carlos Hyde.
Wow.
Maybe not necessarily this season, but he's often injured, hasn't even crested 1,000 yards on the ground. The offensive line hasn't helped. But anyway, Fournette is a power runner. Really good in a power scheme, and Kyle Shanahan runs an outside zone. That requires tailbacks to read the line, make cuts when they see a hole opening, and Fournette never really did that at LSU. He was, kind of more reliant on a lead blocker and pushing open gaps as opposed to creating them. So, you can make the argument that a good running back's a good running back, and Fournette's going to be a game changer, but he's sort of the antithesis of what Kyle Shanahan wants to run on offense on the ground. And so you're not going to bring in somebody that is you're not going to change the scheme based off one player.
Right.
And, that's why I don't see that as a fit. I know a number of other 49er fans kind of look at it the same way, even though a lot of people are saying, oh yeah, no, the 49ers and Fournette, that makes a lot of sense. I know Matt Miller at Bleacher Report suggested it. And I'm like, I just don't buy it, but that's kind of the reason why.
Let me throw a curveball at you then, Pete. Excuse me, Tony, while I throw this at you.
I've been waiting for you, bro.
They're in California, and what about fitting the style of offense you want to run. He's so versatile. He's more than just a running back. He can play the slot. He can do anything, whatever you need him to do. Is he his value too high, too low to take at the number 2 pick?
Well, I think another thing to consider here is that this year's draft class is exceptionally deep at running back.
Yes.
And Kyle Shanahan teams, and I totally just had a name drop or forgetting the name of 49ers running backs coach right now, but they've been a tandem for a long time, and they've never taken a running back ahead of round 3. And so you can find some pretty good running backs in rounds 3, 4, who can wind up being, kind of the next David Johnson.
Yes.
And that's definitely a possibility. And I think that considering the 49ers have so many needs, especially on the defensive side of the ball now, that's going to be their priority with that first pick. And, Fournette's a game changer, but
it would be likely another player. Are we talking about like Jamal, is it Adams, I think his name is, from LSU? Or are you looking more like a Solomon Thomas or someone along the defensive front?
Well, if it were up to me, I'm taking Malik Hooker out of Ohio State.
Wow.
Yeah, he's a.
I hope it's up to you.
Yeah, gosh, it's a rangy center fielder, a guy who's perfect for a cover 3 defense. And the 49ers are going to run a lot of that this year, so you need a guy at the very tail end who can cover the field in wide space. Jamal Adams would be nice. Oh, gosh, yeah, he is. Jamal Adams would be good, but I think free safety is a much bigger need than strong safety. Also, that would keep Jimmy Ward at cornerback, who's probably one of the only 2 cover guys that I trust within the secondary. And but if it's not Malik Hooker, I'd look at Reuben Foster out of Alabama. He's when he gets picked, every other team's going to be like, oh, their defense just got a lot better. So
yeah, I actually think that he may be the best player in the draft. And I know that's kind of a weird thing to say because nobody's picking him at early, but that guy is not just a top 10. He's a top 5 player. And he's going to be picked by someone, and like you said, it's going to throw everybody else off. And it's going to be like, damn it, why did we just listen to Mel Kiper? And like this whole idea, because that guy, there's no weakness to his game. Zero.
No, he's great sideline to sideline coverage, converges on the ball carrier, gets in the backfield, just disruptive. And you imagine it's sort of the version 2.0, where you can pair him alongside Navarro Bowman back in the days when Bowman was with Patrick Willis. And Willis was kind of the elder statesman and Bowman was the up and comer. Well, if that's the case, then Bowman can be the elder statesman and pretty darn good one, while Reuben Foster is going to be your go-to guy and certainly a piece to build around. So, I mean, if the 49ers went with either one of those 2 picks, I'd sit back and enjoy the rest of the draft.
Linebacker, Joe, who's that other linebacker that's the top? There's Reuben Foster, and then there's one other linebacker that people are real high on. I cannot think of his name off the top of my head. I'll have to look it up. It's
Hassan Reddick or Zach Cunningham?
Yes, Reddick.
Okay.
Is that I think he's a little less proven of a talent, but or maybe less refined, but also an interesting selection. Question though is that I saw someone mention in the chat, Pete, is that you guys need a quarterback. Oh,
Yes.
Still hear me okay?
Yeah, you're good. Is that if you need a moment? Yeah, we got you covered.
Yeah. Actually, I have to run for a few minutes. Do you mind if I come back on in about 10 or so?
Perfect.
10, 15 minutes? All right.
Yeah.
We'll do version 2.
We'll talk about this. We'll talk about what he said. All right, Joe, I do want to divert a little bit from the San Francisco 49ers. And what I would say is that right now there is a major fight. And actually, this is crazy because it seems like that Peter just doused some cold water on this fight because it sounds like Fournette, nobody's going to be really we're not going to be paying that price for him. I'm sorry. If we pay that price, even I'm going to be upset.
No, we're not giving up anywhere near that amount for one guy. No way.
But so if Fournette doesn't drop to 8, this conversation is a moot point. But there has been one of the most heated debates over. I've never seen two camps so strong between McCaffrey and Fournette. I mean, just really angry to the point of this is that, like, I've got people painting me as like an anti-McCaffrey and a pro-Fournette guy. I'm not anti-McCaffrey, but I think that if I was the GM, I would pick Fournette. Who would you pick? Who would you pick if you made right there?
If you made me pick between those two only and no other options?
Yeah. Just like if that was the two selection you had, these are the two picks. You get to pick it right now off of what you've seen and what you know of these players.
I would have to pick Fournette. I just think he fits.
Isn't he more of a certainty? I think he's more of a certainty.
I think you can count on certain things from him, yes. And he's going to be the most like Jonathan Stewart.
He's going to be so much better than Jonathan Stewart.
Sure, I'm not even saying he's not.
Higher.
I'm just saying they have similar styles of running the ball. Very physical, punishing running.
Yeah.
And that's it. So, Stewart has not had a full healthy year since 2011, I think. So you got to figure he's going to miss some time. So you bring in the guy that runs just like him, and you don't miss a beat.
Here's the thing. Fournette is a man. He is straight a man. He ain't going to get out there. He's going to make pro football players look like boys. I mean, not all of them.
Right.
I mean, there's going to be big guys that slow him down, that tackle him, but he's not a guy he is a guy actually right now who looks like a man amongst boys at every level he's played.
Right.
But now he's going to be like a man amongst men.
Right.
And I think that this dude is one thing that I think that people are forgetting about, and this is where the McCaffrey lovers, in some ways, I think, are just negating some of the positives when it comes to Fournette, is that I think sometimes we're so prisoners of the moment, Joey.
Mm-hmm, sure.
And that what is the moment that we know about Fournette? We know that Fournette had ankle injuries this past year. Right. We know that he did not have his best season. We know that LSU, which no one is talking about, was so crappy that they fired Les Miles, who has been an exceptional coach for them for a long time. Right. So their down cycle injuries. I feel like if Fournette comes out 2 years ago, he's a number 1 or a number 2, no problem. So I think we are slightly prisoners of the moment, and that is in a negative fashion towards Fournette. Now, likewise is that McCaffrey supporters could very much argue that 2 years ago, McCaffrey, the numbers he put up all around, also were exceptional.
Yes. Well, throughout his college career, he's played.
Yeah, he's been amazing. Football. He's been very good. He's very, very good.
He's a dynamic player, highlight material everywhere. Every time you see him, it's, a highlight play. He has a totally different style of runner. He's extremely versatile. I think that's his biggest attribute is his versatility. He can run the ball between the tackles. He can take it outside. He can line up with the slot receiver and run extremely good routes. There's going to be made that we have Jonathan Stewart, who's a power bruising running back, and we have Fozzie as a change of pace back. Well, bringing in McCaffrey would be a big time upgrade over Fozzie. Argument for that you bring in McCaffrey to spell Stewart, and you're totally changing the game on the defense. You're bringing in a guy that can line up at receiver, can line up in the backfield, can go in motion to receiver. There's so many things. Your versatility goes up. But my concern is this. Mike Shula, I don't believe, would use him to his full capability.
Yeah, I mean, I think here is that you mentioned that McCaffrey has the highlight. Everything's a highlight reel.
Yes.
And that is true, but it's also a highlight reel in college. And right. I don't know if they would be as highlighty in the program. I think that he is that look, and he's an exceptional player. I'm not trying to detract from the guy. I actually like a lot of the things he could offer, punt return, special teams. Mm-hmm. But you're right, is that will Carolina use him in a manner that highlights that can maximize that? But what about his ability? The Panthers have a guy on their team right now who's a running back who averages 4 yards a carry, and he doesn't even get a hat on Sundays.
Yeah.
And his name is Cameron Artis-Payne. And yes, Cameron Artis-Payne, I haven't seen he had he had a untimely fumble in the playoffs.
Ooh. And boy, it cost him big time.
But to me, what I think I hear two theories of why he isn't really getting had each week. And the first one is that he doesn't practice well, or there's something we're not seeing. The other one is that he's not proficient in pass blocking. And I just wonder is that at any point, no matter what happens, can McCaffrey be an effective pass blocker? Right? I mean, can he really do it against guys like Dante Fowler or who's the Vic Beasleys and stuff like that?
Or Dontari Poe, who's now an Atlanta Falcon. Yes, there is that, which is a problem. He is not he's not a big, huge guy. So his technique is going to have to be really good. And I think that is one of his weaknesses, from what I understand, is he's not a great pass blocker, which a lot of guys coming out of college aren't.
Right. No problem with that.
Right. Running backs usually are more focused on running the ball than blocking in college. So it's something they have to learn. With McCaffrey, we're not in any way trying to minimize his athleticism or running ability. Or he's a fantastic player. I just don't think he would fit with the Panthers because he is so versatile. We would use less. We would be very, very one-dimensional with him in all likelihood, where he is multi-dimensional in how he can be
Which
used.
is interesting. It's so funny, and this is just like what we just round and round Leonard Fournette and McCaffrey we go, right? It's like round and round. Because the argument against Fournette is that he doesn't fit well. That the Panthers don't want to run out of the I formation. That Cam Newton is better out of the shotgun. And there's this idea that there's no need to change everything you do because you have Leonard Fournette. And then on the other hand, we're saying that the concern is does Shula, and I think that's a legitimate concern from you, Joey, is that everybody is saying, what has everybody been focusing on? Evolve. Right? Those are the whole comments, is that we've got to evolve. But, and that McCaffrey could be so dynamic and all of this with this. All right, I'm on it. I'm buying. I'm picking up what you're putting down. And then the idea is that those people that are saying that a lot of times, Joey, are the very people that say Shula is uninventive and narrow-minded when it comes to his offense. So, I mean, it's like, I feel like at least one thing is Shula would know what to do with Fournette.
Oh, yeah.
Right? But I think that I think that the McCaffrey, and somebody in the YouTube chat mentioned this, is Reggie Bush was dynamic in college too.
He was.
He was one of the best college players we've seen.
Yes.
And his game, he was good in the pros, but not great. Not even close to being great.
Yeah.
And
he was a highlight reel in college. All you ever saw was highlight reel footage from Reggie Bush too. And then he came to the pros and reality set it.
The question,
right?
Yeah. But for me though, is that what McCaffrey a little bit is there's a little bit, and this is just me, the holdout on him. I would love to have him. But if we are trying to pick nits, is that we are kind of speculating that his versatility is going to translate into greatness. But we don't really, it's a lot of speculation, is that we just don't really know if that game translates into the pro game. And if it does, it always seems to be like on the Patriots.
Right. I was just thinking to myself, we're talking about like a Wes Welker or that kind of thing, because you got this guy who plays running back in college and he's able to because, he's really quick. He's
good patience and vision.
Playing running back, but in the NFL, he and makes plays, but then when he goes in the backfield, he gets stuffed at the line of scrimmage every time. They're going to move him to a slot receiver.
Yeah.
He's not anymore.
I agree. I think, too, that another component about it, Joey, is that he looks like he has that speed downfield. But I think and he is quick. He's fast, but he's not exceptionally fast. And all of a sudden, I think that something that translated into huge plays in the college game may just translate into okay play. Like, I think safeties are going to chase him down. Corners are going to chase him down. And maybe, he could be a Hall of Famer for all I know. I think there's a little more certainty with Fournette in my mind of what he can
You feel
be.
more comfortable making that pick as opposed to picking McCaffrey. You just have more questions to do with Fournette. Hey, we run this style of offense. He is very similar to Jonathan Stewart, so there's a certain comfort there. I personally am of the opinion he will be gone by the time we make our pick. I think Jacksonville.
All right, so how about this? Is that first is that there's this dude. I went to a Jacksonville site because tonight we've been so busy with life. Joey, you've been busy with like visiting the local hospitals as a guest. And by the way, my son Michael got on Tuesday of last week, came home sick from school. He said he wasn't feeling good. Turns out my man had the flu.
Oh gosh, poor guy.
He is still down, bro. It is over 7 days later, and he's been awake for like 10 hours in a week. I saw him smile for the first time today. So like it's just been hectic, but I was like, man, we've been trying to get the stream on all these different platforms. I got the new computer, all these different things. And I said, well, like we got to get back to focusing on, bringing in some people and doing some things on the podcast. So I was like, I reach out to Peter. My whole thought was let's look at guys on teams that can make an impact on the Panthers draft. So I reached out to these cats, Jaguars on Big Cat Country, their SB Nation site, and I reached out to the managing editor, and what a douchebag. Dude can't even just say no thank you. Just completely ghosts everything. Like, I tweeted him, I sent him a nice email, I didn't bother him for a couple of days, and then my man can't even respond. And he's seeing the crap. He's tweeting it right as it. So, like, I'm pissed at this dude just for being a jerk. But I was thinking like, look, the Jaguars are the team that's going to snatch this dude up. You got Tom Coughlin, who's going to love this guy. He's professed already to be in love with this guy. This is the team. I thought this would be a perfect guy to ask what's going on in Jacksonville. So as I start to chase this rabbit down the rabbit hole before I even message the dude, the same guy writes the same exact story that Panther fans are having, and that is why Leonard Fournette would not fit in Jacksonville and McCaffrey would be a better option. And it is like the exact same discussion. And I was just wanting to hear what he said about that. But you're right, is that the idea that Fournette, I think the football guys are going to know that guy, you know who's high on Leonard Fournette? Ken Dye.
Oh, my God.
I mean, just so crazy high on him, like he's like high on crack. He compares him to one of your favorite players of all time, Joey.
Jackson.
Bo Jackson. And, when I look at Leonard Fournette tape, I see it. I totally see it. The thing that I don't see are those giant-ass shoulder pads that Bo used to wear. What in the world did they wear back in the day, man? They look like I don't even know what they look like.
Yeah, they were huge. But, with Fournette, I think he won't be there because Tom Coughlin loves big running backs, guys that are physical. He knows Blake Bortles needs help. Bortles is not a man to do the job. He can't take it on his shoulders and win the game for the team, so he needs help. So bringing in Fournette, running him hard, will take the pressure off of Bortles and allow other things, play action pass, focus on, short slant routes and short across the middle kind of things, using the guys he has at receiver, AR-15, Marquise, whatever his name is from USC. So I think that's what's going to end up happening. And I think if that happens, the Panthers should go and get the juice and go OJ.
Oh, OJ Howard? Yeah, you're already getting some love like that.
I think he's going to help them with blocking in the run game because he's a better blocker.
Joey doesn't watch the YouTube comments, guys, by the way. And Joey is just reciting crap that Bobby Blue said like 45 seconds ago. It's just awesome. So
you're right. I'm watching Twitter though.
Yeah. So, but I think the idea too, when it comes to, I don't know. I think that, and I'm with Ken Dye on Fournette, is that when you watch him, I think we forget just how damn good Bo Jackson was. Like, that mug ran a 4.2 or a 4.1, they reportedly said. And he's just a man amongst boys. It was crazy. And speaking of, Peter is back. Do you remember a little Bo Nose?
Of course I do. I grew up in the 80s. How could I not?
Yeah. And right down in Oakland, right?
Oh, yeah. No, he was a stud. And then I remember him. Right? Yeah. And you remember him playing, what was it? I think center or left field for the Kansas City Royals too. And I was always like, man, how does this guy get some sleep? I don't know, but yeah, he was an exciting guy to watch.
I remember reading a book, guys, in 3rd grade, and it was Bo Nose. And it was just like, I read this book about Bo Jackson and his life that was for like just kids. They used to come out with all these like little, Michael Jordan books. They're probably like 60 pages or something like that. But Bo, everybody knew that man was legit, and it was just the saddest story that injury ruined a guy's career that would have been the greatest football player of all time.
I believe that if he would have focused solely on football and not played baseball, I believe he could have been the greatest football player.
I think he would have been in anyway, Joe, if he would have just stayed healthy. But all right,
he definitely could have tried. I think he would have made a good case.
Let's talk about the greatest prospects of all time. Is there a quarterback prospect at number 2 that Peter Panacy wants? It doesn't sound like it.
Not at number 2, no. There's nobody quarterback-wise that could convince me the 49ers should go that route. Even in round 1, I mean, I know there's a lot of guys talking about, Mitch Trubisky, Deshaun Watson. I know a good friend of ours is going to kill me for saying the 49ers shouldn't touch him. But anyway.
Trubisky is fool's gold, bro.
Yeah, he is. 1 year as a starter. Not
Blake
sold
Bortles.
on that.
He's Blake Bortles 2.0.
Yeah. And Deshaun Watson is a lot like Colin Kaepernick, the good and the bad.
But better?
And potentially better. Yeah, well, here's the difference. He's young. Kaepernick isn't. So there you go. That's not going to be a fit for Kyle Shanahan's system anyway. Shanahan was pretty clear why he didn't want to bring back Cap. So, if there's a quarterback who might maybe be worth a look in like round 2, Patrick Mahomes I like, Davis Webb out of Cal I like. The only thing is, 49ers, they're going to roll with Brian Hoyer. That's fine. He's played well under Shanahan before. And then next year's draft has a lot more options at the position. If Kirk Cousins is really the guy the 49ers want, they basically have him for free, not financially, but in terms of giving up draft picks for free a year from now. So, why try to invest on something that might not be very good now when you can wait a year?
Yeah, I agree. I don't think it's such a pressing need that you have to go out and pick somebody up, that you don't really want. I think you can wait a year. You can afford to. You're going to roll with Hoyer. Your expectations as a team should not be too high. You want to keep them realistic. You're not going to be a playoff contender, odds are. So wait, don't take a guy you're going to regret spending money on or wasting time on. I agree with that move totally.
What if we, Joe? What if we traded for Kirk Cousins, the 8th pick, and then we traded Kirk Cousins for the number 2 pick? Would you take that trade, sir?
Yeah, I think so.
That's kind of interesting.
When we have to give up 72 picks for Kirk Cousins,
64, just 64. That's it.
No, Peter. What do you? I mean, where are you going to really address? How many picks do you guys have in this draft this year?
There's 10. So number 2 and number 34.
Like
so
the Browns bad.
Yeah, and that's kind of the one part that's going to be interesting to watch is how these picks get used or moved. But I think first overall, like I said, you heard me on the first pick with either Malik Hooker or Reuben Foster. Number 34, probably still going to be on the defense. It's just most likely going to address whatever else wasn't. So the 49ers go front 7 with number 2. They'll do secondary at number 34. Or if they go secondary at number 2, it's going to be the flip side. You're going to try to go front 7, maybe an edge rusher of some sort. And then afterwards, it's probably going to be a lot of the best player available. Hey, who's the top guy on our draft board? Because chances are that's an upgrade. And that's fine. You'll take that. That's a smart way to draft when you've got a lot of needs.
Yeah, that's the way to do it. I mean, you have to. If there are that many holes to fill, you got to take what's the best of who's available.
How'd you guys go wrong so quick? How did things go so bad? I feel like this is, but I mean, and either Harbaugh was the best coach in the history of the world, or there was some real bad things.
Well,
that we didn't know about.
There was that. There was a lot of infighting between Trent Baalke and Jim Harbaugh. That was a big problem. But a few things happened because you remember Trent Baalke back in 2011 was the NFL Executive of the Year. That's pretty telling. But then from 2012 through, well, I guess last year's draft, Balky's picks never really panned out. And he started investing in players who were hurt, guys like Tank Carradine, what's his name? Lattimore, the running back from South Carolina, who I think all of us
but
really,
you
really
guys
liked.
got him like in the 6th round or something.
It was round 4, and the problem is, so those hurt, and then Will Redmond this last year, a guy who didn't play at all in the 3rd round, and then just winding up going after, like, Tank Carradine was a 2nd round pick, guys that just really underperformed. And then you start thinking about the 2015 offseason, which was disastrous. Then Harbaugh was gone, Justin Smith retired, Patrick Willis retired, Chris Borland, promising linebacker, retired after 1 season.
Yeah, you guys were devastated that year. I remember that.
Yeah, Frank Gore, Michael Crabtree, Mike Upati all left through free agency. And that was the point of the previous drafts not being sufficient enough, because then the 49ers didn't have players to step in and fill those roles. And you saw just the tailspin starting in 2015, and then last year just kind of hitting rock bottom. There just wasn't the talent there. So, and then all the infighting, within the front office, a lot of it centered around Trent Baalke. That just derailed everything about the 49ers in really quick succession.
I got a couple of questions for you about the Niners. First of all, what happened with Kaepernick? Where did everything go wrong with him?
Well, if you look at his numbers, and you'll have to forgive me, I'm plugging in my computer now. If you look at his numbers from last year, they weren't bad. You consider the situation having 0 wide receivers, a not very good offensive line, an okay running game. His numbers were okay. As far as sort of his regression, that kind of started in 2014. And I personally think it kind of falls between 2 categories. One, the 49ers tried to ask him to do too much, and he's just not equipped to do that. And probably more so the case, you remember when he came out, he was the poster athlete of the read option offense. Him, Russell Wilson, Cam Newton. Russell Wilson and Cam Newton adjusted to being a quarterback outside of the read option. Colin Kaepernick never did. And so teams started to catch on, and I always go back to the 49ers Super Bowl against the Ravens. That was kind of the blueprint on how you stop a read option offense. You don't see too much of that anymore. So you try to put Kaepernick into a more traditional style offense, and it's not his strength. So you get to this point now. It's not like he's young. I think he'll be 30 years old this November. So he's not like an up-and-coming player or anything. It's just – it's not going to get much better. Now, I do think that he's probably worthy of a backup role on some team. A team like Seattle could use him. He's probably a lot better than some of the quarterbacks who were signed this offseason. Mike Glennon in Chicago. I was like,
I know. That just bewilders me.
Yeah, and I'm like, huh? But, it makes sense what, the 49ers are doing. It's a clean slate. We all kind of knew going into this season that he wasn't going to come back after 2016. And Kyle Shanahan, he's not the type of head coach for Kaepernick anyway. So, it's kind of I guess it's a sad ending to what looked like a promising career, but that's football.
Hey, you mentioning his role as a potential backup quarterback segues perfectly into my next question, because a couple of weeks ago, I saw some people on Twitter mentioning it, and we even had our fans mention it in one of our forums that's going on while the podcast is going on. Colin Kaepernick being the perfect backup for Cam Newton.
Yeah, you can see it. I mean, you think about the complex running game that Carolina runs, he'd probably fit seamlessly into that, and a very good insurance policy. I mean, look, Colin Kaepernick's still a quarterback who took a team to the Super Bowl. I mean, that's an accolade most QBs have. And it's not like, and you could base this off of last year's numbers. I mean, was he great? No, but he wasn't bad. And so if you're looking for someone who would fit, as a backup, you want to fit the style of quarterback who's starting, try to emulate as many of those traits as possible. So for Cam Newton's sake, big arm, big body, capable of running out of the pocket on designed runs or scrambling out and picking up extra yardage. Kaepernick can do that. That's why the same thing with Russell Wilson too up in Seattle. Kind of a seamless fit there too. So, as a backup option, that you would think that would be a pretty seamless fit. And plus, Cam and Cap are friends. The last time I heard, they know each other and have done things together. I think in media as well. Not recently, but
yeah, they did. If I recall, a couple of years ago, they did something together, But yeah,
Joe, I got it. Let me jump in here too. I want to divert the conversation slightly because the YouTube conversation is just pumping right now. And there's two things. One is that we're talking about one of the things that stuck out to a lot of listeners was that the San Francisco 49ers with 10 whopping picks in the draft is realistically like how many of those guys could you sign? And ultimately, does that mean that you're going to be doing potentially like what the Panthers have done is taking some of those extra picks and used it to navigate the draft waters to get maybe a guy that you want that's 6 or 7 picks ahead or a round ahead? Do you see San Francisco moving in this draft because of that and not just in that second overall pick, Pete?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Whether it's back or forward, and it's all going to depend on what's on John Lynch's big board. But, if they're at number 34 and there's a guy who's sitting there at number 31 or 32.
32? Yeah, that's the Panthers.
So,
oh, no, we got 64. We're
64. So you can dish off a quick pick and just say, hey, look, we can use one of these, mid to late round picks to move up. The thing, though, with the 49ers, though, and this is the part where I would hesitate to say it's a guarantee the 49ers trade up, spending picks as capital, is they need as many players as they can out of the draft and even depth guys. If you find, a good cornerback, let's say in like round 6, maybe not a starter, maybe a number 4 corner, that's even probably going to be better than what you've got.
Wow.
So,
yeah, man, you guys go depleted majorly.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that a lot of people are debating about is why we Joe have left Dalvin Cook out of this discussion entirely. And there's one person who's going by the name of Luke Kuechly. And if you were the real Luke Kuechly, I would be super excited. But I'm pretty sure that you're rooting for Dalvin Cook. That means you're not the real Luke Kuechly. But his whole point is that we're sleeping on Dalvin Cook and that we've been trashing him by not even mentioning him in the conversation and just saying that his off-the-field problems are the issue. Joey, you got a guy here who out of Florida State who's got not just one charge against him in the past, but multiple charges, and this not Luke Kuechly reminds that he has not been convicted, but he had. I would like to raise this point just to help usher this YouTube conversation along. Even if it's not a conviction on this, is that the charges that matter, like the type of charges, and you're talking about a division where. And a team that has a history, the Carolina Panthers, we have a murderer in our past, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have a guy that had a major domestic violence issue in Greg Hardy, who was also not convicted. But third, and I think people forget just how dear this is to the NFC South, is we also have an animal abuse storyline, not with the Panthers, but in Mike Vick and the dog thing. And Dalvin Cook's transgressions kind of fall across so many of those lines where he didn't take care of these dogs, supposedly left them chained up, and they were found either malnutritioned or dead, supposedly or allegedly. He punched this chick in the face. But overall is that I think this is that while Dalvin Cook looked pretty good in college and could be pretty darn good in the pros, did he stand out enough in the draft, I mean at the combine, to even creep into that top 10 discussion, and I just don't know if I saw that. And Pete, I'll ask you, how do you feel as a team? I mean, obviously not at number 2, but what is the taste in your mouth about a guy like Dalvin Cook?
Well, his draft stock is slipping enough that you kind of see the result of that. I mean, there was a while where people were looking at him as a player better than Leonard Fournette.
Yeah.
And that's gone. Now, I hate this about professional sports, but you're willing to put up with a lot more off the field issues if the guy's talented.
True.
And I mean, if the guy was slated to be like a 5th round pick or something, he wouldn't be touched.
Done.
But we'll put up with it. We can change him. I know that definitely the 49ers won't touch him or Joe Mixon. I mean, the 49ers just released one of their cornerbacks who've been there for a long time, Tremaine Brock, and he had been arrested recently for domestic violence incident. He just arrested, and hesitate, released him that day. And that kind of went against what the 49ers had done in years past with guys like Aldon Smith.
Aldon Smith essentially created a terrorist scare at one point and was still on the team. He walked into an airport and did the one thing I tell all my students never to do, which is to yell bomb. It's like bomb, and we're like, we'll find room for this dude on a team somewhere.
Yeah, and he did. Hey, the Raiders picked him up, and I was like, yeah. So, and it's one of those instances where the talent you have is going to be if you have more talent, the tolerance level is going to be right there with it. It's sad.
Do you think that for someone like not Luke Kuechly in this room who is touting Dalvin Cook, is that a lot of people argue that Joe Mixon, or not a lot of people, I've seen some people argue that he is the best running back in the whole draft class.
I think so.
You think so, Joe?
I think so. I think when you look at overall ability and what he brings to the table, I think he's the best running back in this draft class. Now, that's speaking strictly football, but the NFL is way more than just football. There's an image they want you to maintain. You have to protect the shield at all costs.
No, you don't, Joe. That's all bullshit.
Well, I'm just telling you what.
That's what they say, but it's all fake. Don't you think?
Well, I think people are realistic. I mean, it's like your job. You have a certain image to maintain. Sure. If you were running around smacking women around and getting liquored up and being rowdy, I think your bosses would come to you and say, "Hey, Tony, you represent us outside of
I'm gonna get
outside of school as well."
Less. I'm gonna get fired for way less than that. But I think though with Joe Mixon is that the videotape. The power of video,
yes,
is that with Joe Mixon is that you got a lot of guys that actually what Joe Mixon did was terrible.
It was awful.
It was. I mean, he broke someone's face.
Yeah,
and then on top of that, it was a female's face, right? So it wasn't breaking anybody's face is not a good thing to do, but. I do think that, I don't know, maybe I'm a sucker for second chances or something to that effect, is that I've heard Joe Mixon speak, and he seems so, I won't say repentant. That might not be the right word, but he's, gotten involved with – he's done kind of what you have to do if you screw up. I don't know if that necessarily forgives him, but – or anything like that, but I don't necessarily see those things with Dalvin Cook, and or not that I need him to see. I just feel like it's just so apples and oranges, or we approach these situations is that just dependent on if there's a video or not. As soon as we see someone punch someone in the face, then we're like, this is the most horrific thing ever. But we're like, that dude ran that person over a car. Didn't see it though, but not a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. When you see it, it has such a more tremendous impact. It seems so much more real than when you just hear about it.
Yeah, I mean, because you get people that have had, and we can go on and on about this, but I think that this is that here ultimately, and I will put the final nail in Dalvin Cook's coffin for our two teams, particularly in the first round, is that his numbers at the combine weren't good enough to say, like Pete was saying, and that is we overlook a lot when your talent is crazy. He looks good on tape. He did some good things at Florida State, but his measurables weren't so insano that you were just like, oh, wow.
You can overlook.
Yeah.
Right.
Look, is that everybody may make the wrong decision. He may turn out to be the greatest running back ever. I don't think so. But at the same time, to really think that he's that he's the pick at 8, come on.
Not happening.
Yeah, not happening. All right, last questions for Peter because we're about 20 minutes over, Joe.
No, I really think.
Whoa! Hold up! Somebody just wrote on YouTube, Cam has a record too. Oh,
come on! We're talking about.
Yeah.
So does Navarro Bowman.
Apples and oranges. That's apples and oranges. You cannot compare the two.
A laptop that he took. He found a laptop. Look at me. I'm already defending Cam. He found a laptop that had his name on it. No, is that like he did take a laptop from the library? Like sitting there, and then he threw it out the window, allegedly. Right? Come on, is that you're 18 years old, punching a chick in the face and stealing a candy bar are two different things.
For sure. Right. Peter, I wanted to ask you if you could have it your way, would you rather the team trade the number 2 pick and get multiple picks, or do you want to go ahead and get your guy at number 2?
I'd trade down if you can find a good spot. Carolina at number 8 would be awesome. Get some picks in return, and then still get, like I mentioned, those players from 2 to 8, kind of all in the same class, same boat. So if you were still to get a Foster, a Hooker at number 8, and then land, a couple more picks, great. If not, though, and if the deal doesn't go down or doesn't take place, hey, you know what? You still have the second pick. You basically have your choice of anybody in the draft not named Myles Garrett, and even then the Browns could, who knows the Browns. So
you can never count on the Browns to do what you think they're going to do.
Right.
And not. That's a great point. But yeah, okay. I think you're right. I think either way, it's a win-win situation for the Niners. They can get their guy, or they can get multiple picks and still get a great guy.
Yeah. And they need it.
For sure.
Thanks for taking Mike Shanahan away too. And
you mean Kyle?
Yeah.
I think Mike's running around somewhere on a golf course right now.
That's what I meant. I did mean Kyle. And on top of that, are there any secret concerns with Kyle? Come on. Are you just so wowed by what he did?
What was that? I couldn't hear the last part. It just cut out.
Are you just so wowed with what he did in Atlanta? Are there no secret concerns with him?
I don't look so much at Atlanta. I actually look back at what he did with the Cleveland Browns team. Okay. Yeah. And that was an okay for a bad team with not a lot of talent. Same thing. He turned Matt Schaub into a Pro Bowler, right? And so I'm looking more at that because that's kind of the talent level. The only difference is going from a coordinator to a head coach, night and day. So hopefully that translates over. But
and hopefully
as far
don't
as being
get too bogged down in the offensive part of the game. That's what those guys tend to do, is they get too bogged down in one component.
Yep. And they don't learn to people manage, which is more of a head coach's job than X's and O's per se.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, guys, we finish the show every week with a little segment, the Ice Up segment of the week, where we tell somebody across. This is our homage to Steve Smith, where we tell someone in the world, everyone is fair game, to ice up, to get it together, to toughen up. Joe, do you have an Ice Up pick? I have.
I do. It's so easy for me this
Good.
week because
I got
I've
so
been
many.
disgusted. And this whole disgusting story just bothered me. Steve Stevens, Facebook Live infamy.
Oh, is this the
Absolute
murderer jerk, dude?
coward. Complete and total coward. Um, I what he did, he killed a totally innocent 74-year-old man who was coming home from seeing his children for Easter, and his grandkids and his family, and to just walk up to him and take his life for no his life is just, it's such a cowardly thing to do. It's picking on a person who really has no way to defend himself. And then, you hide, you go into hiding. You try to make this big spectacle of the murder, and then you go into hiding and you're running away from it. They find you 3 days later, and what do? You're being chased by police, and you blow your brains out.
Did he?
And
Did they find it?
cowardly-
Did this go down today? Because I have been out of the loop.
Today? Yeah, he pulled up to McDonald's. He killed the man in Cleveland. He pulled up to McDonald's today in Pennsylvania and ordered his food. Well, the girl who rang him up recognized him and called the state police, who then chased him. It wasn't like a high speed thing; it was like a low speed chase, from what I was reading. And they did the pit move where you spin the car out, and they hit him in the corner and you spin him out.
Yeah.
While he was spinning out, I guess after he came to a stop, he quickly grabbed his gun and shot himself and killed himself. So just from the start to the finish, it's just a straight cowardly act. I'm very much a pro-gun guy, but this is an example of a guy who beat the system because he had mental problems. He was very depressed as a child. Animals, and this. He was he was a sick man and a coward, and that's what really bothers me so much. It's just this act from start to finish. It was a show, but it was a cowardly show, and I feel so bad for the family of the man that was killed, and it just makes me sick to my stomach, man. He totally. Well,
he doesn't even deserve to be on ice.
Yeah, he's definitely icing up now in the morgue.
Just let him rot. Let him
rot. I really, that's how I feel. There's certain people that you shouldn't do anything. Throw them in the ocean, feed them to alligators, whatever. Just,
Joe, did you hear about, speaking of, go ahead and hit the ice up, because I want to ask you about something.
All right, really, I don't need to say it because
it's not even worth it. It's
like
worse than ice.
And just sad. I'm really sad.
It's cold as ice, but I'm willing to sacrifice. Joe, I heard that an alligator climbed up to someone's second story in Charleston, a 10-foot alligator.
Wow, like flying
right
from
that?
outside your house?
It was in your neighborhood. No, climbed up their steps to their second story balcony. And they found a 10-foot alligator on their balcony at like midnight or some crap like that.
I heard there being one on a porch, but I thought it was on like the first level. No, I didn't know it was the second.
Went up.
Dude.
They had to basically bait it down with chicken. They couldn't even hook it with the hook because they said there was too little space and he was too giant. But anyway.
Right, a 10-foot alligator.
Yeah, that's no freaking joke. That is dinosaur type mess. Pete, you got an ice up pick for us this week by any chance?
I do by chance. It happens to be Pittsburgh Pirates Starling Marte suspended 80 games for performance-enhancing drugs. And so you enjoy that 80-game break and go ahead and ice up.
Oh, wow.
Great call, Peter. I saw that today.
Short and sweet. I'm going to ice up. This is going to be – I have so many that I want to go through, whether it's this jackwagon at work I had to deal with, this student that I had that wrote that slaves ran away from the north to the south. I want to ice that up. No, folks. Sorry. Like, I'm sorry, but my ice up pick goes to North Korea. And North Korea, these dudes are so funky wagon. Like, they have supposedly this nuclear program that doesn't work. Then they have these giant missile program that doesn't work. And supposedly they're putting on this fake like thing where it doesn't work, and like all of this, like nothing works in North Korea. But where this really comes from, Joe, is my father-in-law. It was his birthday yesterday. Happy birthday, Charlie. He showed me this old video from Kim Jong-il, the dad. And it was this video. You could go and watch it on YouTube, and it's his like secret security force. Like, you know how you got the who is it in is the Israelis, the Mossad? Yeah. Like that kind of elite special forces, but it's supposed to be a secret forces group. And they put out this like video, and this must have been 20 years ago or some crap. But my father-in-law was showing it to me, and it looked like a combination of an old 70s kung fu video and like some sort of parody thing. They had these dudes banging. One of the guys banged a nail into a log with his forehead. They were taking telephone poles and smacking these dudes, and they would just be like, and like taking it. Like at one point they put a piece of concrete up to this dude's face. Like he held a piece of concrete up to his face, and then they smashed it with a sledgehammer. And he was just like, ooh. And my favorite was like, you know how you see those super weightlifters who pull the truck with their teeth or whatever? A guy was doing that, and you see this giant army truck, and you're like, oh, whatever. And it looks like it's in park. Like, the wheels aren't moving. I'm like, this is all bull crap. But it gets better. As the wheels start to turn, they zoom out, and there's like 70 Korean dudes sitting in the truck, like, perfectly still. Like, this one dude just dragging their ass around. It was so bogus and so whack and so awesome that to you, North Korea, I say ice up. But I don't know if you have any ice there because you may not have electricity. And we are not worried about your thermonuclear war. You're a bottom to us. Don't you worry. We're the alpha. And sorry, folks, but like it just ain't working. I don't believe guys are nailing nails into boards with their foreheads. Don't believe it. Don't believe it. It's like that guy. You ever go on YouTube? The guy that like hangs all the weights from his nutsack.
Exactly.
Like, yeah, it's just like, all right. There may be one guy that does that, and he only does it twice until he never does it again. So North Korea, Buster, puff out your feathers, keep doing it. But once you act, you only act once because you won't be able to act twice. Until then, I say ice up. All right. This is the C3 podcast. Peter Panacy, thank you so much for joining us. Tell everybody you've got a very popular guest. A lot of people complimenting you in the YouTube chat. Mario, I will send you this link to this video. It is awesome. Peter, tell them how they can find your work and follow you on Twitter.
Yeah, if you want to follow me on Twitter, that's probably the easiest. You can find anything that I do. It's just at Peter Panacy, just like it sounds, Panacy. Go take a look over at NinerNoise.com. You'll see me there year round. And then, of course, upcoming during the draft, check me out over at Bleacher Report, doing 49ers coverage for them. And, stay in touch. Get in touch.
Speaking of, I'm going to put you on the spot here. You don't have to answer, but think about it. On draft night, we always do our live draft party. We'd love to check in with you, maybe either after the second pick or after the Panthers pick, and just see where everybody stands and get your perspective. If you are free that night, keep us in mind. Send me a message afterwards. You don't have to answer now, though.
Can do. That'd be fun.
Joe, tell them how they can follow you.
Yeah. Twitter at Joe Wilano. Peter, I want to say thanks for coming on. You know, I remember the first time you were on with us, it was all about Cam Newton versus Colin Kaepernick, which who
Oh
will be
man,
better
true
and
that.
who's better. But yeah, you've always been so willing to come on and participate. It's really great to know we can count on you, and also it's great to have you listed as to consider you a friend of the show.
So it's always fun, guys. I always appreciate it, and I always try to give you guys publicity too. And I'll be doing that again. So even Niner Noise will be throwing out this video when it goes live in here in a little bit.
Awesome. Thank you.
Word up. All right, guys. This is the C3 podcast brought to you by CarolinaCatChronicles.com, where every Tuesday night, now at 9 p.m., you can join us for the latest Panthers news and opinions from the fan perspective. I'm Tony Dunn. You can follow me at cat_chronicles. Give us a like. Give us a subscribe. Go to Niner Noise and check out Pete's work. And until then, we'll say keep pounding and keep fighting over this. Leonard Fournette, McCaffrey. But you know what the problem with all that is that it's going to be a defensive end. And so the whole conversation is moot. That is the C3 podcast. We will see you back next week. And all I got to do is hit stop now.